Hi, everybody. I'm Pierre Bouvard, Chief Insights Officer here at the Audio Active Group at Cumulus Media in Westwood One. And what is the new company that is shaking up radio audience measurement? Introducing Xperi's DTS AutoStage, AM and FM radio audience measurement from 6 million connected cars. Here's what you need to know. Radio's big data moment has arrived. Now, the TV industry has long had big data in the form of cable set-top boxes, smart TVs that have generated large samples of tuning data, but now it's radio's turn. And just like cable set-top data, you don't have demographics, but you have large samples in hundreds and hundreds of markets. The difference with TV is this is all human listening. Now, about a quarter of your TV ads play to an empty room. But in the world of DTS AutoStage, there's always people in the cars when they're driving 60 miles an hour down the highway. Now, as you go through the data, you'll be surprised. The large samples mean very, very stable listening trends. In all size markets and for all size stations, the daily, weekly, monthly audiences are stable and consistent. Great news for agencies because your buy is going to look very good in the post-buy analysis. So radio now has a modern, cutting-edge, timely measurement, which does not rely on a consumer's memory or ask a consumer to carry or wear a gizmo. Now, auto dealers and retailers can now see for the first time ever where the station's audiences are near their retail locations. The DTS heat map visualizes the next day where audiences are occurring in the market in proximity to retail locations. The other thing that the dashboard does a great job of is dispelling the myth that no one listens to radio. You just show the dashboard and the ranker to consumers, to advertisers, and they see thousands of vehicles reporting listening to hundreds of radio stations. The other benefit of DTS AutoStage is because of the sample sizes, you can see for the first time the impact of special programming, sports, and live events. And what's also impressive is you get to see literally audience data from yesterday. We have never had overnight audiences in our lifetime in radio. Well, now every market and every station gets to see audiences from the prior day. Now, in the world of TV, a company called T-Vision places infrared cameras in the homes of consumers. And their 5,000 person panel reveals that when your TV ads are on, at about a quarter of the time, no one's sitting in the room, whether it's for linear TV or for a connected TV. And then about 20% of the time when your TV ads are playing, people are looking away, their eyes are not on the glass, they're probably looking at their phone. So only half the time you get what you pay for, the sight, sound, and motion. But in the case of DTS, you're getting the ears on measurement, all human listening, because folks are actually in the cars when they're driving around. Now, Edison's famous share of ear study, the long-running audio time use study, reveals how important in-car listening really is to AM and FM radio. In the car, AM/FM has an 85 share of ad-supported audio. Everything else is in the mid to low single digits. And just about all of that listening that happens to radio in the car is to the terrestrial over-the-air signal. Very little streaming for radio that goes in the car. Most streaming occurs at home, like with podcasts and Spotify, and then there's a portion that occurs at work. So let's take a look by demographic at the share of radio listening that occurs in the car. As you can see here, the younger the demo, the greater the proportion of American radio listening that occurs in car. Among 18-34-year-olds, 63% of all American radio listening occurs in the car. Among 25-54s, it's 57%. Now, what about men versus women? Well, the car is important for men, with about 50% of listening occurring for men in the car. But look at women. Those numbers are eye-popping. 72% of female 18 to 34 radio listening happens in the car. Two-thirds of female 25-54 radio listening happens in the car. So the car is a crucial location of listening, especially for younger demos and for women. Now, what do radio stations need to do to show up in DTS AutoStage? Well, it's all about the metadata. And so stations have to go into a dashboard and log in their call letters, logo, slogan, station nickname, programming format, their streaming URL, and most importantly, a data feed to DTS of what's called the now playing metadata. What is the now playing metadata? That's what shows up in the car on the screen. The title and artist of the song, or the name of the talk radio personality. Getting that feed from the radio station to DTS is critical if a radio station wants to show up in the data, and none of this costs you anything. Now, if you don't supply DTS with the now playing metadata, your stations might not show up. An example recently in Buffalo, two big town square radio stations, major top 5 players, 20 share combined, were not providing DTS with their now playing metadata, and they barely appeared. They each had about a 0.5 share. But as soon as the engineering folks started feeding DTS the metadata, those radio stations popped into the top 5 and now have a combined 20 shares. So get your chief engineer at your radio stations to start feeding DTS the now playing metadata from your station playout system. Now, the rankers in the platform will show which stations are not providing the now playing metadata with a little yellow dot. And if you hover over it, it'll say live data not provided. So when an agency or advertiser is looking at the dashboard and your station is ranked number 56, you'll see that little yellow dot, and that'll tell the agency that your station is not supplying the now playing metadata, and that's why your numbers are so small. Now, the DTS dataset has a very diverse array of auto manufacturers that are participating: European, domestic, and Asian. These very diverse automakers make for a very representative sample source in the data. Now, as you look at the sample sizes for a recent month, you can see that markets that are in the top 50 have sample sizes anywhere in a month from about 28,000 to 280,000. Markets that are 151 to 200 will have about 6,000 to 9,200 sample size in a month. And even the smallest markets have a minimum of 1,000 up to 4,000 vehicles. So these are significant sample sizes. And what's amazing is the sample sizes are growing like crazy. So take a look at New York City. A year ago, they had 177,000 vehicles. They now have 280,000. Salinas, California had 4,400 a year ago. Now their monthly sample size is almost 8,000. And you'll notice the medium and the smaller markets are seeing the biggest sample increases. A number of the markets have tripled their monthly sample size just in the last year. Look at Dothan, Alabama, 1,000 to 2,500, or Oshkosh. They've doubled. So the samples are growing and the samples are robust. For agencies and advertisers and stations, the metrics will look very familiar. Time spent listening, share, tuning minutes divided by total tuning minutes in the market, and CUME. The other big difference with DTS is they show all radio stations, regardless if they subscribe or not. Agencies these days are very upset with Nielsen because Nielsen has adopted a new pay-to-play approach where they only publish stations that subscribe. A recent advertiser perception study of 300 national media agencies and marketers revealed they do not agree with the pay-to-play approach from Nielsen. 8 out of 10 agencies say audience measurement services should reflect all media behaviors, not just media vendor subscription. And 2/3 of agencies and advertisers say Nielsen's radio ratings are now less reliable because they've removed audiences from non-subscribing stations. Now, what's on the product roadmap for DTS AutoStage? Well, AQH and impressions are coming into the platform. They're going to be piloting attribution, connecting the dots between vehicles exposed to ads and the retail locations they visited. They're going to be launching an agency version of the dashboard with access to 300 markets and developing a third-party processor data set that can integrate with agency planning and buying systems. So let's take a quick tour of the DTS AutoStage dashboard. The first screen you see is all 300 markets. It gives you some high-level data, the population of the market, how many vehicles are in tab, and how many radio stations are being measured, and what's the total number of tuning occasions in those markets. The ranker shows all of the radio stations sorted by share, and again, you see every radio station in the market, regardless of whether or not they subscribe. You can break out daily audience trends here for a radio station in Allentown. Look at how stable and consistent the DTS AutoStage data is. It's remarkable. There's also a report that will show for a given market and a radio station all of the other markets they show up in and how they rank in those particular markets. There's a day part visual that'll track hour by hour listening patterns for tuning occasions for a station, and you can even zoom into a day part and look at quarter-hour audience flow. The big showpiece that generates oh wow from car dealers and retailers is the heat map, where it shows exactly where radio listening is occurring. You can zoom into it, you can see the highways and the towns, and really get a great understanding for the proximity of radio audiences to retailers. There's also music charts that are based on actual song delivery, and soon you'll be able to see the same thing for actual ads on the radio, and you'll get to see the audiences to those ads. Each radio station has a private dashboard just for themselves that allows them to update what drivers see in the dashboard, the slogan, the call letters, the logo. There's even a box that shows what's actually showing up in the car dashboard at that moment. So radio's big data moment has arrived in the form of Xperi's DTS AutoStage. TV has long had big data in the form of set-top data and smart TV data. This is all human listening, unlike TV, where a quarter of the viewing occurs to an empty room. Stable data, consistent data, big samples. This is modern. This is cutting edge, very timely. Every market can see yesterday and last week listening, and the respondents don't have to worry about their memories or if they remember to carry the gizmo or not. Auto dealers and retailers can see for the very first time in the history of radio where station audiences are in proximity to their retail locations. And the dashboard really overcomes the no one is listening to radio myth when you see all of the tuning that's going collected from the thousands and thousands of vehicles. For the first time, you see with granularity the impact of sports, special programming and events, and the next day in-car audiences is really quite impressive. Thanks so much for the opportunity to take you through Xperi's DTS AutoStage radio audience measurement from 6 million connected cars. Thanks so much.